obviously there's more, conservatives within the state of Oklahoma, but I don't think that there were less liberal leaning, reformist leaning people there. It was just hard to get in the door in both of these meetings. The one in Oklahoma City, there was a show of force of a dozen or more ununiformed and armed police officers taking up the public seating and not leaving until the final police budget was passed. And then in the Norman City Council, I tried to go and I was not allowed in because one of the right-leaning groups within Norman, Unite Norman, had come like an hour early to take up those seats and to not allow people who were for police reform into the door. And those people that were scheduled and approved to speak at the council meeting had to pull up the emails and their ID and show it to the police officers for them to let them through the doors, because the people who want police reform were literally not in the room where it happened and weren't allowed in for just multitudes of reasons that were out of control from the city council and the police officers' hands. But when you're going to say we need police reform and there's policemen standing in front of you, that's a toxic situation that those members of the police force were clearly not there to stop the other people from coming in the door, and they were there as counter protesters in some regard, which is the whole argument is that policemen shouldn't show and shouldn't be used as intimidation. Right? That's the whole goal of police reform, is that in some way you get police in the crazy system that I don't think can be reformed. I'm a tear it down bitch all the way. But, is to not have these figures who are protecting us be viewed as people who are hurting us and hurting the BIPOC population and killing them.
This is what a complete lack of accountability has looked like for generations. So any other organization that was concerned about their budget, they would send the budget director, whoever's over the entire organization, and it'd be those two, and they would come and say, please do not cut Parks and Recreation. Please do not cut whatever organization, water, utilities, I don't know. Whatever organization that the city funds in some regard, please do not cut it because of these issues. Full stop. We don't need to intimidate you. We're not going to cut off, we're not going to not pick up trash on an entire quartile of the city to show you need us. We're going to come and say, if you reduce our funding by this much, these are the potential ramifications. We believe this is what will happen. It's about dollars and cents. This is not about intimidating you. This is not about anything like that. We believe we provide an essential service. If you cut our funding, these essential services will be lost in this way. This is something for the council to consider. That's all, right? It's no more difficult than that. But what you got is the manifestation of an organization that has been operating with complete impunity for generations. Right? It's no different from if you've never been held accountable, if you see a kid who's never been held accountable for anything that kid does, and when that kid gets out in the world, that kid misbehaves. Well, why wouldn't that kid misbehave? The kid's never had to behave before. Right? So if you have this organization that's been operating with complete impunity for generations, and by complete impunity, I mean they have the right to kill, they exercise that right regularly in Oklahoma City. Right? They stop, detain, kill, and abuse in a myriad of ways, right? Rape like a few years ago, right? In Oklahoma City.
Yeah, yes.
Multiple. And there has been little accountability for those things. There's more money poured into these organizations while the community has been crying foul. And when I say crying foul, I don't mean that it's been merely, please hear us. I mean, it's been massive organization and complaints, not simply in 2020 and 2021, not simply in 2014, not simply in 2000, not simply in 1990, not simply in 1980. You can go back to this occupying force running roughshod over a community, and a community saying, stop, this is not what we want, this is not what we need some actual services, and never getting it, right? And that is still the conversation to be had. And now that we're even broaching the conversation, right, there was not an abolish police meeting by any stretch of the imagination. That wasn't even a reduce the scope of police significantly by any stretch of the imagination, right? That meeting was peanuts to the police department, and they acted as any organization, any human being who has operated with impunity for generations would act. I'm offended that you would do this. I'm going to show up with 12, 15, 20 armed officers in full uniform, and we're gonna shut this bitch down. We're offended that you would even mention us in this way, to even talk about our bloated funding in this way. We need this money to do the things that we say we don't want to fucking do. But it's up to us to make that decision. It's not up to you, because you've never held us accountable before.